Oh, okay. Oh! Oh! Killed by a stormtrooper? That's so stupid. Oh. Hey, oh, that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's about time. I'm Yoshi on the Go. Welcome back to the channel. And it's been 2 years with M1, so it's about time. This is my official M1 iMac review. In this review today, we will be going over design, performance, peripherals, screen test, camera test, speaker test, any complaints, and the future of iMac. So let's get it started.
Y'all don't hear me. 6'6" piston, tiptoe kiss 'em, cat call kitten.
So obviously the iMac design has been iconic since its introduction in 1998. It's been a while. I need a new chair. Let's kick things off with a quick unboxing video. So obviously the unboxing experience is pivotal to your overall experience and a great introduction. Apple has always been pretty famous for their boxes, and this time around they actually changed it up a little bit. You unfold it similar from a laptop, which is interesting. And of course their ASMR is always super satisfying. My initial impression was how light it was. Like, it's crazy how it's the whole package, but it's like so light. Forget the Apple stickers. This sticker, this is going up on my car right now. My rear. And of course seeing all the color matched peripherals and cables for the first time is a truly magical experience, especially with all that new paper and new ink smell, which I love so much. Not only do we have one Apple sticker, we have 2, and they're color matched. This thing is a super simple, super easy experience, and it's quite enjoyable, especially for someone like me. For more double iMac unboxing shenanigans, please go check out my full video. So despite the all-new design, obviously it's still an iMac, and I love that, especially the white bezels and the chin. I know a lot of tech YouTubers weren't very happy with this design change. Having that white bezel underneath that glass is just so reminiscent of my favorite period of Apple. Obviously, the most appealing aspect of the iMac are the handful of bold, eccentric, and just fun colors. Of course, orange is my favorite color, and I mean, look at it. It's beautiful. Of course, the classic silver color remains. Is it a color? I mean, I guess so. It's not just 6 colors, it's 12 colors because each iMac is duo-toned. But essentially, all the primary and secondary colors are represented: red, yellow, blue, orange, green, and purple. When these new colors were first announced, I was a little disappointed that the front was such a soft color compared to the boldness of the foot and the metal back. But actually, no, Apple's definitely onto something. I love seeing the contrast, and I truly think that the softer color on the chin just helps it blend in and stand out at the same time, which is interesting. I think the iMac can literally fit anywhere, especially the orange one. Any room in the house, bring it with you to your mom's house. No matter what you're doing, it's just gonna look good. And it's exciting to use it because of how it looks. Not only is it thinner than an iPhone, which is bonkers, by the way, but it's also thinner than most LCD displays. But it's not just a display, there's a whole freaking computer in here, right? Oh, and look at that, there's a headphone jack. Imagine that. And then we got fans and speakers on the left and right side. And that's it. That's the gist of the new design, and I am in love. It's got a super fun unboxing experience and the 6 amazing colors. So it's a perfect computer, right? 100% complete. Well, yeah, but let's talk about the RAM. Now, despite the amazing design, of course, the one drawback, classic to the Mac, is that it's not really user upgradable, and this is more true than ever now thanks to the M1 design. All of your RAM and internal storage is baked in when you buy it, so you have to spend quite a bit more up front to get the RAM, to get the hard drive space you want or you need. However, the positive outcome of this is that you've got a dang fast, dang good computer that'll last you a good 5 to 10 years. But it is very disappointing that the RAM is not like user upgradable, something that my Intel iMac does not suffer from. I've had that guy for a couple years and I've already upgraded the hard drive as well as the RAM. I started with 8 gigs of RAM, and now I have 64 gigs in that machine. But this one will forever be stuck at 16 gigabytes, as will all M1 machines. Does 16 gigabytes affect the performance? Let's talk about that right now.
But it's not magic. It's the M1 chip. which is kind of magic. And it makes the new iMac fast. Like, your apps open instantly fast. Like, check that text while you clean your inbox, while you share that photo, while you stream that show fast.
That's fast.
So performance obviously is super important for any computer that you want to get, although it's also more or less important depending on what you do with it. Now for me, I do mainly video and photo editing. And I know we could just look at the Geekbench scores, but that's kind of boring. So I made a custom series of performance tests, including an iMovie export, Affinity Photo panoramic test, converting a huge 4K HDR MKV file, upscaling video using Topaz AI, as well as my most important metric of measurement, Final Cut Pro. Regular, normal day-to-day editing is a breeze. Super easy, especially if the project is edited on the hard drive itself, the internal SSD, or I also have this external WD Black SSD that's also just disgustingly fast. But first and foremost, let's do the iMovie test. I did a little mini impromptu hike and I took all these iPhone clips. Looks like it's 3 minutes, 55 seconds total, 4K, 30 frames a second. So let's export this at the highest quality possible and see how quickly iMovie can handle it. But all right, let's go. So yay, we get bar graphs. These were almost identical. It's just iMovie, it's just regular 4K iPhone video, so nothing fancy there. Intel, 6 minutes and 2 seconds. M1, I got 5 minutes and 55 seconds. For all intents and purposes, those are identical. So let's keep looking for more demanding tasks. Another really common thing I do all the time is photo editing, whether that's with the Photos app or taking it one step further with raw photos and panoramic photos, specifically in Affinity Photo. This test is a little ludicrous and out of the ordinary. Most panoramics are going to be anywhere from 3 to maybe 10 photos. This one is 198 photos, I think. And I've broken it down to make it easy to follow. I do a variety of steps for the process of making this panoramic photo. First of all, it's the initial stitch, how long it takes to select all the photos and to get a rough idea and to let Affinity Photo think like, hey, is this your project? Then we click OK, and then it actually stitches the photos together. So that's step 2. Step 3 is to crop the image and intelligently filling all the blank spots. Once that's finished, we got to load an HDR preset. There's a couple that I really like, specifically this Summer Glow. Then we apply the preset and then we export. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different stages. This one took way longer than it had any business to, especially on the M1 for some reason. So let's get to the performance stats. Over on the Intel side, that initial stitch took 8 minutes and 1 second, and I have no idea why this took so much longer. It took 1 hour longer. That's crazy, right? Maybe Affinity isn't as optimized as it is on the Intel iMac, but then again, I'm also remembering that my Intel has 64 gigabytes of RAM. My M1 limited to a maximum of 16 gigs. Actually stitching the panoramic together took the Intel 13.5 minutes, whereas it took the M1 almost 31 minutes. Crop fill, basically identical. I'm gonna call that the same. But then again, loading the HDR preset, it was a nightmare. But finally, it took 57.5 minutes, which is still double that on the Intel side. Again, this has to be something to do with RAM and RAM optimization, but then the rest of it was pretty straightforward. Applying the preset and exporting was relatively fast and even faster on the M1, which is what I was expecting. So maybe I should do this again, I don't know, but the HDR load and the initial stitch seems like an outlier. There is one thing I wanted to clarify though, that this is a massive undertaking. Most of my Affinity Photo things are just really basic things, and it is pretty darn fast on the Intel iMac, but man, on the M1, it actually is very fast. But this is a ludicrous 560 megapixel photo, which is kind of the point. All of these tests are the most arduous tests I could think of things that I personally would actually do. And despite some of these steps taking longer than I think they should have, I am very impressed that this cute little M1 iMac could pull this off. And then of course there's the good old handbrake test. In this case, we are converting a very chunky, very gorgeous 4K HDR movie, Knives Out, using the Apple 4K preset. Of course, the original file is 64.65 gigabytes. So let's export and see how long that takes. So this was going on in the background the whole time. First I did the Affinity panoramic test, then I did the Topaz AI test. So not all 3 things at the same time, just for your reference. So how'd the machines do? Well, 4K isn't too chunky, but HDR, man, HDR files are dense. And in this case, yeah, it took a while. This 2-ish hour movie took 14.5 hours on Intel, 17.5 hours on the M1. Now, if these were just regular Blu-rays, then it would actually be faster than real time. This test in the future moving forward is something that I'm excited about to see how much faster this HDR data can get processed. Really quickly before we move on, remember to like this video and also turn on notifications so you can see all my videos. Well, next up is the Topaz AI video upscale test. Searched through some old clips from my old iPhotos library and I ended up finding these two gems, both taken with the iPhone 4. So 720p, 30 frames per second. Got this beautiful beach in Hawaii when we went there, as well as a desk tour, which is hilarious because some things don't change. I've got that iMac, I've got the AOC second monitor. Same is true today. Each of these videos are 720p, 30 frames a second. The beach one is 32 seconds long. The desk tour is 1 minute, 35 seconds long. I'm upscaling into 4K. I'm adding 60 frames a second. I'm stabilizing and I'm using the AI model Artemis, as well as exporting on H.264 high mode. And here are the results. The M1 definitely shines. The beach video finished in half the time on M1, and the desk video, for some reason, also took a really long time, but it was 30 minutes faster. Now, I know what you're saying, that's kind of ludicrous, right? Waiting an hour to upscale a 30-second HD video into 4K 60, but I mean, here are the results. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Last up, we've got the Final Cut HDR export test. In this case, I have 3 videos. And yes, they are shot on the iPhone. They're shot at 4K 60 HDR. But as you can see, all the clips have color correction. There's some titles and graphics and a couple layers of other additional effects, text, and music layers. So how do they do? Well, here's the graphs. Obviously, in this case, the shorter time, the better. The M1 excelled. For anyone who's ready to upgrade their iMovie experience, Final Cut is absolutely the best way to go in my opinion. And the results speak for themselves, as well as the results of just the power of the M1 being super efficient and whisper quiet. Oh, by the way, speaking of whisper quiet, here's what the M1 iMac fan sounds like under a full load. Yeah, the fan totally sucks. It's like a freaking hurricane. Nah, I'm just kidding. That's the box fan on the floor. Hey, it's a wild potato. But in reality, it's actually very quiet. That's pretty quiet. Now, one additional note about performance that's totally irrelevant now is that when I first picked it up, some things like Final Cut were actually kind of slow and a little buggy, which I guess is to be expected with brand new, version 1 processors, right? And another issue I kept running into was constantly running out of memory, like all the time, even though clearly I'm below that 16 gig limit. It constantly had me closing apps because it thought I was running out of memory. Now, there was an update both to Final Cut Pro and to the OS a couple months into the experience, and that fixed all the problems. I haven't run into the issue at all, even when making a huge 650 or whatever megapixel photo, and that was the trick. Day-to-day stuff, all the normal stuff, watching movies, watching videos, doing internet stuff, emailing, typing, all that stuff, brilliant. All your apps, all my apps open up super fast, mostly thanks to the crazy NVMe that they have installed on this thing. So I know you see my weird performance tests like, oh, it takes 14 hours to do that one task. Well, yeah, but that's an extreme niche thing. And all my tests are real, actual things that I do, and it works great. Albeit some of the tasks are a little bit slower than what I'm used to from the Intel side of things.
Magic Mouse, loved by iMac users, now features color-matched aluminum. And Magic Trackpad, still by far the industry's best, has a refined shape to match the new keyboard. These new accessories complete the system and bring even more capability to iMac.
I hate this chair so much, but it was free, so I can't complain. For the past couple months, I've been using this Logitech Lift Mouse, which ergonomically just feels a lot better day-to-day to use. With a few caveats, I'll have to save those details for another review. As you saw in the unboxing video, one of my favorite aspects is everything matches, like all the color matches. The lightning charging cable, color matches. The power cable, color matched. And same is true with the peripherals as well. And the keyboard with the Touch ID, there's also a keyboard with the extended typing stuff over here, the numbers or whatever, so the accountant types and other professionals, you've got that option covered just in case you need that. The trackpad matches, but another just amazing attention to detail is the radius of the curved corners, and the low profile is like exact. It's just like, it's beautiful. It may be hard to believe, but Apple fixed their mouse.
So now when your mouse dies, you recharge it like this.
It's a joke. So obviously this is really stupid, but at least this time around you get a look at a pretty color while you wait. But seriously, that is a weird design flaw. Like, why can't we just have the Lightning or in the future USB-C coming out from the front? Ergonomically, it's not my favorite. Charging is wonky, but otherwise, the design looks incredible and the functionality is amazing. This mouse can do so many multi-touch gestures. It makes editing in Final Cut, browsing the web, and all these other common tasks, switching between virtual desktops, etc., a breeze. A+ for that. But because of its low profile, it does kind of cramp my hands and fingers a little bit, so I do prefer a more comfortable mouse. But yeah, the keyboard is really good. The bottom is this nice soft plastic, just in case you were wondering. But where it really shines are the small, thin chiclet-style keys, which I really like. Here's a sample of me typing. Clearly you can see my keys are dirty because I've been using them for 2 years, but surprisingly they hold up really well. So say you want to log in. How fast is Touch ID? That fast. And not only that, but you can use Touch ID to switch users. So if you're on someone else's profile, you just tap your fingerprint and then boom, you're logged in. You can also make purchases, access other sensitive data, and remember passwords with Touch ID, which is just fantastic. And if you need those extra keys, the numeric keypad is just a $30 upgrade. I think that's a pretty good deal if that's what you're looking for. If not, though, the default keyboard is great, though I would absolutely splurge for that Touch ID, which does not come on the base model. The Touch ID is a game changer. Well, Apple claims that this is the best trackpad in the business, and I'm gonna back that up because it absolutely is. With the trackpad, obviously, is that there's just tons of multi-touch gestures that you can turn on and off. Like, look at all this. You've got natural scrolling, you got pinching, you got smart zooming, you got rotating, and all of those gestures are greatly expanded if you have an app such as Better Touch Tool. But that's not part of the reviews. Probably one of my favorite and most surprising features is actually the click. Because see, it's a solid state trackpad, so it doesn't actually click. It just has a little haptic motor in it. When you click on something and you feel it like vibrate or whatever, or you feel it click, that's what's happening. So I have it set to medium, and if you want to, you can even just turn off the clicking entirely. So here's what the regular clicking sounds like. And if you turn on silent clicking, here's what that sounds like. For the iMac, the Magic Mouse comes standard, or for a $50 upgrade, you can get just the trackpad, or what I did, for an extra $130, I bought both of them, and I do not regret it. Even though I don't use the Magic Mouse, I like the color matching. But before we move on to the next part, let's talk about the ports. Now, the base model iMac has 2 USB-C ports on the back that are Thunderbolt 4 capable. I've got the upgraded model right here with 2 extra USB-C ports, so 4 in total, 2 Thunderbolt 4, 2 USB-C ports on the back. Of course, we've got that headphone jack on the left side, as well as an Ethernet connection on the power brick itself, which honestly, I think that's a great idea. And that's actually something the computer maker Gateway did way back in 2007. Remember Gateway? They made an all-in-one with a lot of the peripherals in the power brick. And despite hating that product at the time because I was such a diehard Apple fan, I really liked that idea. So I'm glad Apple's bringing that back. But as you can see, I also have this little hyper dock extender, which gives me SD cards and then an HDMI in the back. Once we hit 4,000 subscribers, I actually have a second one that I'm gonna give away to someone. So please subscribe. Guys, I've been doing YouTube for like 17 years. Come on, help me out here. So overall, the ports are very forward-thinking, and they work really well. They're super fast. I do find the omission of an SD card slot annoying. Those are ports that I rely on every day, maybe not so much in the future. And also, I would just entirely skip the base model iMac completely. It only has the 2 ports on the back, no Touch ID, no Ethernet, and also only 1 fan to cool the processor instead of 2 fans. I am really glad, however, that there's that headphone jack, and overall it's a good experience, but I did need to buy that USB dock to give me the ports that I need to use on a daily basis.
It has a 4.5K Retina display for colors that pop off the screen.
Okay, now let's do a screen test. Obviously, this screen is gorgeous. So no matter what you do, everything looks great and super responsive. For example, scrolling through a Final Cut timeline. But no matter what apps you're using, say you're updating your resume in Pages or you're working on a group project in Freeform, the text is sharp, contrasty, crisp, and all the colors just look really, really good. Maybe you're interneting or shopping. Even just scrolling through all of your photos in iPhoto is a sight to behold. And I mean, look at this Corgo. I am in love all over again. But what about HDR video? Well, it looks really good. So here's some duck that I found at the park just chillin'. All right, but what about movies? What about YouTube? What about Apple TV? It's just one thing to keep in mind, this is an LCD screen. It's not micro LED, it's not OLED, but my goodness, it looks amazing. And the contrast, like, you can see for yourself, the blacks are really, really black. They're not like OLED black, but they're gorgeous. It's got 500 nits of brightness, which is pretty good. I mean, it's not like 1,000 nits of some of those fancier LG and Sony and Samsung HDR TVs, but 500 nits, it looks really, really good, whether it's YouTube, iTunes, or your own iPhone videos. That being said, there's a variety of different content. For example, there's SD, there's HD, and there's 4K. Obviously, 4K HDR is when it shines at its best. But even an SDR DVD rip like this, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, is a standard definition DVD rip, which by the way is perfectly legal because I still own the DVD, just saying. Yeah, this looks really, really good. But even some of the new stuff like Super Mario Bros, Avatar, and Avengers, all that stuff just looks good. Plenty of color representation, plenty of brightness to go around. One thing to keep in mind though is that the surface glass is glossy. So one, that helps the colors pop really well, and I actually do prefer this, but two, it's very fingerprinty, so when the screen goes dark, you can tell. Just pointing that out. Even in a super bright room, the screen holds up beautifully. Basically, no matter which app you're using, no matter what video you're watching, standard definition, high definition, 4K, HDR, or no HDR, everything's gonna look great. One thing I'm not too enthused about though is that Apple, with their iMacs, used to allow you to use the iMac as a secondary screen for another computer or another input source. And unfortunately, they just don't do that anymore. They want you using just the iMac. However, there is a kind of a hack. If you have a capture card like the HD60X like I have here, in combination with software like OBS Studios, you can absolutely use your iMac's display for other devices like your Xbox, your Nintendo, your DVD player. So as you can see, the response time is excellent. Down here, we right-click the source, we go full screen, and then boom, got a full screen experience. In a nutshell, this screen is amazing. It's bright, it's colorful, and everything on it just looks good no matter what it is. I do wish there was a more official way of using the screen with other devices. I imagine it would be as easy as updating the firmware for the Thunderbolt ports to allow AV in, but Apple's just never gonna do that. Regardless, this is the best screen I've ever seen on an Apple product. I like it even more than my iPhone 12's OLED screen. It's just gorgeous.
A 1080p camera, so you'll look right in any light.
All right, here's the 2019 Intel iMac iSight camera. Got a couple lights turned on, and I've got my window open. Now it is 7 p.m. on a summer evening, but it's still quite bright outside. I don't know. All right, and here we are over on the M1 iMac side of things. All the lights on, windows open, ring light, overhead light, everything's turned on. Here's this colorful shoe, very colorful. And here's my previously overblown Wii U. It's still a little hot, as you can see, but not nearly as hot as it was. There's a lot more detail in the highlights, which is great. We start to turn off things like the ring light, the overhead light. Here we're just lit by the window. Still a little hot on this side of the face. Yeah, I'm totally blown out, as you can see. It still looks very good, but let's fully close the blinds. And we're illuminated just by the brightness of the monitor. What happens if we turn that all the way down though? This. You obviously can see me, you can see my hair, you can see my face, my eyes, my green shark shirt. But let's check out the M1. All right, and now with the screen brightness turned all the way up, got that same shoe. You can definitely tell there is some fuzz and some noise going on in the background here. You turn the screen all the way down in brightness, and that's what this looks like. Again, shoe and Wii U gamepad for reference. Overall, it's really good. But they should have put the iPad Pro camera in it. Because it's an all-in-one, what about the speakers? It's so thin, it can't sound that good, right?
To create big, room-filling sound, speakers need to displace a lot of air. In order to do this, we increased the power driving the iMac sound system, and we balanced each set with a high-performance tweeter.
Hey, Future Parker here, and this test is really challenging because, like, how can how can this be done? The only way this can be done is if you actually hear the M1 speakers for yourself, right? So for this test, I'm using this DJI microphone, holding it right up to the speakers. It's like freaking impossible to actually display that. So listen to this little playlist that I made for you, and I'll see you at the end.
You're not here.
We're not there. The car exploded. Come get the girls. I have to stay here with Woodrow.
I'm not the chauffeur. I'm the grandfather. Where are you?
Asteroid City, Farm Route 6, mile 75.
Dwight Schrute, Assistant Regional Manager.
Assistant to the Regional Manager.
Damn it!
Okay, hold on. Judge is in session. What is the problem here?
You put my stuff in Jell-O again.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in Durga, walk around the neighborhood.
So yeah, hopefully that gave you an idea of the power. Again, recording this and then exporting it and having YouTube compress it, it's just impossible to get a good sense. I will tell you though that these speakers punch above their weight. They are the best Apple speakers I've ever heard personally. I think they sound better than all my TVs. They don't get quite as bassy as my bass Skull Candy headphones, for example, but they sound louder and clearer than anything. Now, to be fair, I don't have a soundbar. I don't have any 5.1 or 7.1 or Dolby Atmos surround system. I've never even heard of their HomePods. And now that the big boy HomePod is back, and then of course the 15-inch MacBook Air just came out, right? And Apple's lauding that speaker system as well. But to my ears, these are the best speakers that Apple has ever made, and they sound amazing. That's not hyperbole. That's not just me being an Apple fanboy, which of course I am.
Simply put, it's the best sound system ever in a Mac, and we can't wait for you to hear it.
So clearly Apple has struck gold, right? This is a perfect, impeccable machine. Well, no, there are a few potential complaints or points of criticism, feedback. So the first thing to keep in mind is that all-in-ones are much harder to repair, especially with the M1 iMac. So if you have a component that goes bad, you kind of just have to get a whole new computer. You can't just replace that one bad component. Also, the RAM and SSD can't be replaced or upgraded down the line, which I don't like very much, but It is a risk-reward type of function with Apple. More money up front, but lasting quality for a good 5 to 10 years. I'm not a computer or electronic engineer, but in my mind's eye, you could just as easily add an SD card on the left side here, right above or below the headphone jack. So I'd really like to see that in a version 2, possibly with the M3. In the next 10 years, everything will only be USB-C, which is fine. I'm fine with that. Having a few legacy ports just behind here on the foot, or even on the power brick with the Ethernet cable would be really nice. And in terms of the camera and the display, I also made note that the iPad Pro camera system would have been better in the iMac. The lack of target display mode for official screen sharing is a bit of a bummer for me, but of course, if you have a capture card, you can still make that work with other HDMI input devices. A lot of people on the internet have also complained about its lack of adjustability. Like, there is the swivel, so you can tilt it up and down. In order to actually swivel the screen, you have to swivel the whole computer. That doesn't really bother me so much, but then another very valid criticism is the height adjustment. It's stuck at this height, so you have to have like a stand or put it on top of a couple of books or something if you want a little bit higher. However, that begs the question, what does the future hold for the iMac? Because naturally, this is not a replacement for the 27-inch iMac or iMac Pro. This is a replacement for the 21-inch 4K iMac. So what's next? This is what I think they're gonna do. Very soon, possibly at the end of this year, 2023, they'll upgrade all of these iMacs with the M3 processor, and they're gonna introduce a 27-inch variety with I don't know, M3 Pro maybe, or M2 Pro. We're definitely gonna get a 27-inch replacement eventually. I also predict Apple's gonna go crazy and go all the way to a 32 or even a 36-inch iMac Ultra, which in my opinion would be an excellent opportunity to bring back the sunflower iMac design. This thing is iconic and I love it and I wanna see it again. Like, you could literally just have the Mac Studio as the base with their Ultra HDR display just coming out of it. That would be amazing.
With iMac, the possibilities are endless.
All right, well, to wrap it up, the M1 iMac is a super solid computer. The brand new design is absolutely gorgeous, but also still very Mac, and I love that. The M1 is also no slouch. It's got excellent everything. The screen is bright, the camera is good, although it could be improved. The speakers definitely are in a class of their own. Oh, and the M1 is no slouch either. Easily handling any task you can throw at it, though admittedly some of my more niche computer activities might be better served with an M Pro. So whether you're a longtime Apple user or maybe you're just hopping in for the very first time, this is the computer without hesitation that I recommend you look into first and foremost. Well, I guess that's it. That's the review.
Let's go play games. Okay.
And that's it. That's the review. Hope you guys liked it. I guess some things never change. Well, gotta go play Mario Kart with my sister.